Boston, the summer of 1920. Every morning, a line forms on School Street. Some people wait all night to be in it. At the end of that line sits a 5'2" Italian immigrant, collecting $250,000 every single day. That is $4 million a day, in today's money. Handed over by waiters, widows, priests, police officers. His secret is a piece of paper most people have never seen. A postal coupon worth about 5 cents. He says it cannot fail. He says the profit is mathematical. In 8 months, 40,000 people hand him $15 million. And when investigators finally open his books, they look for the coupons. The mountain of coupons that must exist. They find almost none. His name is Charles Ponzi, and within weeks his name will stop being a name and become the crime itself. This is the story of the original scam, and why, a century later, it is still emptying bank accounts, including maybe yours. Carlo Ponzi steps off a steamship in Boston Harbor on November 15, 1903. He is 21 years old. In his pocket, $2.50. He had savings when he left Italy. He gambled them away on the crossing. Years later, he would tell the New York Times, "I landed in this country with $250 in cash and $1 million in hopes." The hopes did not pay rent. He washed dishes. He waited tables. He was fired for shortchanging customers. But he was learning the 2 languages of America, English and money. And in 1907, still broke, he drifted north to Montreal. He found work as a teller at a new bank for Italian immigrants, Banco Zarossi. Zarossi paid 6% on deposits, double what anyone else in town offered. And Ponzi, behind the counter, slowly worked out where that interest was coming from. Not from profits, from the deposits of the newest customers. Money from the back of the line, handed to the front of the line. When the music stopped, Zarossi stuffed a suitcase with cash and fled to Mexico. Ponzi stayed behind, broke again, and this time he crossed a line. In an empty office, he found a checkbook and wrote himself a check for $423.58. The forgery cost him 3 years in a Canadian prison. Out of one cell, straight toward another, caught smuggling Italian immigrants over the border. 2 more years federal time in Atlanta. And Atlanta is where the education got serious. Among his fellow inmates, Ignazio Lupo, a Sicilian mob boss, and Charles Morse, a Wall Street financier. Morse ate soap shavings to fake illness, until the doctors sent him home early. Ponzi took the lesson with him. The rules bend for men in good suits. 1919, Boston again. Ponzi is 37, newly married and running out of ideas. His wife, Rose, believes in him completely. Almost nobody else does. He tries to launch a trade magazine. It dies for lack of money. He walks into the Hanover Trust Company and asks for a $2,000 loan. The bank says no. Remember that bank, Ponzi will. Then in August, an envelope arrives from Spain. Folded inside the letter is a small voucher he has never paid attention to. An international reply coupon. Buy it in one country and it pays for postage in any other. At a fixed rate, agreed before the war. But the war has wrecked Europe's currencies. In Italy, the lira has collapsed. So a coupon bought for pennies in Rome is worth several times more in American stamps. Ponzi runs the numbers and finds a profit of more than 400%. And on paper, it is not even illegal. There is just one problem, and it is fatal. The coupons pay out in postage stamps, not cash. To extract real money, he would need to ship tons of paper across an ocean and somehow turn stamps into dollars. It cannot be done at scale. Ponzi knows this, and that is when he has the realization that will name a crime. He does not need the coupons to work. He only needs the story of the coupons to work. December 26, 1919. He registers a company with a name built out of pure trust, the Securities Exchange Company. The offer, 50% interest in 90 days. Then he gets bolder, 50% in 45 days. In January, 18 people invest, $1,800 in total. 45 days later, Ponzi pays every single one of them, in full, in cash. He never needs advertising again. The payouts are the advertising. Every paid investor becomes a missionary. They tell the barber, the priest, the brother-in-law. He signs up agents on 10% commission, and the gospel spreads through every parish in New England. February, $5,000. March, $25,000. May, $420,000. By June, $2.5 million. By July, $250,000 a day. The line on School Street wraps through Pie Alley. Police are sent to control the crowd. Some of them come back later to invest. Ponzi buys a 12-room mansion in Lexington. He orders a custom-built locomobile, the most expensive car in America. He brings his mother over from Italy, first class on an ocean liner. And then, the sweetest purchase of all. He starts buying stock in Hanover Trust, the bank that refused him $2,000. By summer, he controls it. 7 months earlier, he could not borrow $2,000. Now he owns the loan desk. Under the marble, the math is rotting. 50% every 45 days means the pile of promises grows faster than any real business on earth. In July, a furniture dealer named Daniel sues him, claiming a share of the fortune. The lawsuit goes nowhere, but it puts one question in print: where does the money actually come from? On July 24th, the Boston Post puts him on the front page, doubles the money within 3 months. It is meant as news. It lands as advertising. The next morning, the line is the longest anyone has ever seen. But the publisher of the Post does not believe his own front page. Too good to be true. He points his reporters at the numbers. And he is not alone. Clarence Barron, the most feared financial journalist in America, does the arithmetic. To back the money Ponzi has taken in, roughly 160 million coupons would have to be moving through the mail. The post office counts how many actually exist worldwide. 27,000. Monday, July 26th. The doubts hit print and the line outside School Street turns around. It is a run. And here, Charles Ponzi gives the performance of his life. He opens the doors early. He pays every claim on the spot in cash with a smile. He sends coffee and donuts down the line to the very people trying to abandon him. In 3 days, he pays out $2 million, and the panic breaks. Many take their refund and reinvest it on the same sidewalk. The newspapers call it a triumph. It is actually a countdown. Every dollar he just paid came from the pile, and now everyone has seen that the pile has a bottom. To fight the doubters, Ponzi hires a veteran publicity man, William McMasters. McMasters spends days inside the operation, reading, adding things up. He walks out and writes a very different kind of press release. August 2nd, front page of the Boston Post, under McMasters' own name, declares Ponzi is hopelessly insolvent. His own publicist in print: there are no coupons, there is only debt. 9 days later, the Post lands the final blow. They find Montreal. The smiling mugshot from the forged check runs on page 1. The financial wizard of Boston is a convicted forger. That same day, state regulator seize Hanover Trust, his bank. August 12th, Charles Ponzi puts on his best suit and surrenders to federal agents. The auditors dig in. The hole is somewhere between $3 and $7 million. Nobody can say exactly, because the books are a work of fiction. 40,000 investors will get back less than 30 cents on the dollar. The claims take 8 years. 6 banks go down with him, Hanover Trust first, and the Boston Post wins the Pulitzer Prize for taking him apart. The first ever won by a Boston paper. Here is where the story should end. It does not even slow down. November 1st, 1920. Ponzi pleads guilty to federal mail fraud, 5 years. He serves 3.5. Massachusetts is waiting at the gate with fresh charges. A state court eventually puts it on the record in 5 words: a common and notorious thief. 7 to 9 more years. Out on bail while he appeals, Ponzi does the most Ponzi thing imaginable. He surfaces in Florida under a new company name, selling building lots in the land boom. The pitch: 200% in 60 days. Some of the lots are underwater, literally. Convicted again, he jumps bail, shaves his head, grows a mustache, and signs onto a freighter as a deckhand. A sheriff walks up the gangplank in New Orleans. He finally walks out of prison in 1934, straight into a deportation order. Rose stands on the dock as the ship leaves for Italy. She stays behind. 3 years later, she files for divorce. He drifts to Rio de Janeiro, working for Italy's state airline, until the war takes that away too. January 18th, 1949, a charity ward in Rio. Charles Ponzi dies with $75 to his name, exactly enough to bury him. In his last interview, he was asked about the 40,000. No remorse. He said, "I gave them the best show ever staged in their territory since the landing of the Pilgrims." Here is the strange part. Ponzi did not invent the scheme. 20 years earlier, a Brooklyn clerk known as 520% Miller ran the exact same engine. 10% a week paid out of new deposits. But Miller looked like a clerk. Ponzi gave the fraud a face, the suit, the cane, the smile, the coffee and donuts. So when the dust settled, the crime took his name, the only asset he ever got to keep. And the engine he branded never stopped running. In December 2008, a respected Wall Street elder named Bernie Madoff was arrested in New York. Same engine, no coupons this time, just fabricated account statements and returns that never missed. Ponzi's run lasted 8 months and took 15 million. Madoff's lasted nearly 2 decades under the modern regulator's nose and took 65 billion. The coupon changes. The promise never does high returns, no risk, always on time. And that is the real signature, not the product, the consistency. Real investments stumble, only stories pay like clockwork. Charles Ponzi died with $75. The scheme that carries his name will steal billions again this year, because it only needs one ingredient to work, someone who is absolutely sure it could never happen to them.